All right. Good afternoon to everybody, and good morning to everyone joining us from Europe and also from the rest of the world. I see there are some people also joining us from the United States and the other regions. So, hello, this is not just Europe and ASEAN today. So, my name is Dr. Jenny Lynn Almaco. I am here with my colleague, Dr. Suzanne Renzo Vasu, and this is the European Research and Innovation Days 2021. It is the annual and flagship event of Euraccess Worldwide. It was inaugurated in ASEAN in 2008. And today we're going to talk about the MSCA and the Green Deal and sustainability, also about climate change and how projects that are funded by the EU have been supporting. Of course, we just had this discussion since COP26. Before I deal more about why we are gathered here, I want to give the floor to my colleague who will talk about Euraccess because that's who we are. So, Suzanne, would you like to take the floor?
Yes, thank you so much, Jenny. And also for me, a very warm welcome to all of you to this event, which is just one session out of almost 30. So we hope that you have a great time and we hope to see you in many more sessions as well. As Jenny said, we are the regional coordinators for the Euraccess project. Euraccess, the full title is Researchers in Motion, is a project funded by the European Commission and carried by not only the Commission, but by 40 countries that are affiliated with the European research area. So we are basically your gateway to collaboration with partners all across the European research area. We have a dedicated website, which we invite you to look at. Basically, what we do is we provide you with information about the opportunities for you to carry out research in Europe or with European partners. We have a jobs database, a funding database listing thousands of opportunities for you on a daily basis. We provide you with information on what's happening in Europe, what are the focus points, what is the policy changes, and we're basically your interlocutors. So if you are reaching out to collaborators in Europe, we are organizing events like this today, but we're also there for you to just answer your email questions. So Jenny and I are always available for you. Just drop us an email at ASEAN@euraccess.net and we will make sure that you get connected to Europe. So all of you have fun. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. And we have an exciting session for you today. This is basically Meet the Researchers, and we have excellent scientists, excellent researchers joining us from Germany and from Italy. So really exciting. It's a big morning for them. An afternoon for us. So thank you so much for joining us today. So today we're going to talk about MSCA funded or EU funded projects that help us meet Green Deal goals. So essentially we are trying to answer the question, how can research and innovation help achieve climate neutrality? And so we're bringing together all of these wonderful projects. And I want to introduce all of these incredible speakers one by one, and then I give the floor to the first speaker. So our first speaker is Professor Jorg Schroeder. He is a full professor and chair of territorial design and urban planning at Leibniz University, Hanover. He focuses on urbanism and architecture for sustainable transition and territorial innovation, design research, and circular dynamics. R&D projects include Urbans, which is an EU Alpine space program, Dynamics of Periphery of the DAAD, and Creative Food Cycles of the EU Creative Europe program. So a very good afternoon from our end. And of course, it's a morning for you. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor Jorg Schroeder. So the second speaker, thank you so much. The second speaker is Professor Alessio Kaviki. I hope I pronounced that right. He is a full professor from the Department of Agriculture, Food and Environmental Sciences of the University of Pisa in Italy. So for us, we always know about the Leaning Tower of Pisa, very, very famous here in Asia. But Professor Dr. Alessio Kaviki is a full professor, of course, of agribusiness, rural development and branding at the Department of Agriculture, Food and Environment of the University of Pisa, as I said. And his professional experience includes coordinating several Erasmus Plus funded projects, the Wine Lab, Food Biz, and On IT, and working as a researcher in many national and international research projects. But apart from academic work, he has been an external expert. So he knows a lot about finding funding and finding the next funding and making sure that you get funded. Evaluator, consultant, and trainer. And he has been an invited speaker, a favorite speaker in the fields of food, rural and regional development, innovation, sustainable tourism, smart specialization strategy, and university business collaboration, and many, many more. So he has been invited by the United Nations World Tourism Organization, and of course, the Italian Ministry of Cultural Heritage, and in several government projects in Europe. So thank you so much for joining us, Professor Alessio Kaviki. Thank you so
Thank you, Jenny. And thanks for saying Kaviki and not
much.
Kavici.
And our third speaker, thank you so much. So I got that right. I'm very happy. I had a tutor. It's the third speaker. And I'm going to introduce her right now. She's a researcher at the University of Turin, Faculty of Management, and a member of the Italian Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. She is a part of the team that designed the EIT Food Mooc, Circular Business Models for Sustainable Urban Food Systems, and DG EduHack Go Circular. In the past 6 years, she had the opportunity to conduct research in 20 plus countries, wow, participate in 60 plus hackathons, that's a double wow, with various roles, mentor, and she has interviewed 500 innovators, entrepreneurs, and experts in the fields of food innovation and circular economy. And what is interesting about her as well is she is a PhD student. So she is on her way of doing her, of getting that coveted doctorate title. So almost a doctorate. Thank you so much for joining us, Simona Grande. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Jenny. And thank you very much to the audience. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Yes, we have a big audience today. Right now, we are climbing at 363. So without further ado, I'm here just to guide this conversation. I will now give the floor to Professor Jorg Schroeder. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Jen. It's and welcome to everybody. Good afternoon to you. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk a bit about our project Creative Food Cycles. I will show you some slides. Let's see. Okay, here we are. Just doesn't move forward. One moment. Ah, no. Very good. It's a bit slow. Very well. The Creative Food Cycles is a project in the Creative Europe program. This is originally not a research program, but a program for creative innovation. We interpret it nevertheless as a project for research, let's say creative research, and we dealt with the topic of food. That, let's say, the relevance, I think, is clear to everybody. We especially addressed the topic of food waste. Just let me 1 second. Let me check again the PowerPoint. Here we are. Sorry.
No problem. These things always happen, you know, when you are in a virtual platform. It makes things exciting. So no worries, no worries.
Okay, here we are back now. That in Europe we have 178 kilogram of food waste that is produced per person and year. That is a huge problem in terms of sustainability. And also food production takes 25% of the climate gas emission. What we did was not to start from a perspective of chemistry or biology, but of the creative disciplines, architecture, design, urban design, and also urban planning, to look for creative solutions that are connected with urban transformation, that are connected with a cultural shift. And we worked with a circular approach. So we looked at the singular phases of production, of distribution, of consumption, and in the end also of recycling of food, to in each of the phases to look for more sustainable models and to connect them in a new way. No? And especially we looked at the spatial expression in the city at points of encounter, points of exchange, points where things happen, where people can experience it. And in the end, to transform these places of food into aggregation of a cultural change that can happen in the city, in the level, let's say, of single points, of single aggregators, but also in terms of networks, no? Where the single, what we call the food nodes, get together in new systems and are accelerated by interventions that we prototyped. For example, this table that can be used in public space can be unfolded. It has a garden on top, no? And we used it in the project for meetings with local stakeholders, for meetings with experts. Other types of prototypes concerned facades that produce food in the city, but also provide shading, provide energy efficiency, and in this case, provide also other materials, for example, building materials made from mushroom cultivation. No? We collected a lot of good examples that started already in Europe, for example, in Brussels, the permafungi enterprise, no, that collects coffee, the waste of the coffee production to produce mushrooms, or the waste of the orange juice production for fibers. What was really important, since Creative Food Cycles was a creative cultural project, that dissemination was part of the creative and research experience. No? So the involvement of stakeholders, the involvement of citizens, and also the involvement of students during the project, not only to disseminate, but really to gather the local knowledge, to gather the knowledge of a lot of people, you know, that are active in innovation in the food cycles. Finally, you know, what we formulated as key messages are basically three, you know, that circular design needed to innovate these food cycles can also be a tool to regenerate the cities. That a creative inductive research can include the creative disciplines in a new way, and that we act in multi-stakeholder approaches. And targeted to the European Green Deal, we delivered several messages that addressed green economy, but also energy and mobility transition regarding the distribution of food, and several other sectors. I invite you to have a look at our homepage, creativefoodcycles.org, where you find a lot more informations, publications, and also videos about the project and my contact. I'm glad for any new contact. And we are going ahead with this project that is now finished this year, but we are applying for further following projects. So I'm glad about contacts. And in the end, I think I have still 2 more minutes. I would very much like to show you a short video to get an impression what we did in the project. Let's see if it works. This is about the prototyping our partner IAC in Barcelona did, based on a lot of research, of experimental case studies, and of technical modes for a new wall construction. Very well. Many thanks.
Wonderful.
You find this video on the webpage, www.creativefoodcycles.org. And well, we are glad about any interest, any new contacts, and I wish great success for your big oil access days during all this time. Many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I know, Professor Jorg, you are an architect, but, you know, the explanations that you've given, the science that you're doing is really, you know, multidisciplinary. You know, you are, I see, you know, you're doing also fungi, and then you're doing also, you know, this, I see the crickets there. I mean, but I'm most interested in actually in the circular design. So what would be your advice to, you know, to an institution who would like to perhaps look at collaborations with Europe, with institutions such as yours, and they are, you know, based here in ASEAN?
Well, in a lot of European programs, no, the participation of partners from Asia is possible. And let's say we are, there's a big range. No, now we worked in the Creative Europe program, but we are also can work in Erasmus Plus, in Marie Curie, in the Horizon programs. No, where, let's say, you have to look a bit at the single calls. No, but international participations outside of Europe are in really many cases possible. And this is very interesting for us, no? That really in terms of exchange and to create together something more advanced even, no? It's not just about dissemination, no? But really to go ahead in research. And Asia is very interesting, no? There happen a lot of innovative stuff that we could connect to better, I think, no?
Thank you so much, and just stay there. We'll bring you in later on, but I will now go to the next speaker. Thank you so much. So now our next speaker is Professor Alessio Kaviki, joining us from Italy. So good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, and can you see my presentation? It should come. And Jenny, how long can I speak? Because I have different version. The extended version of 2 hours, the short version of 5 minutes. It depends.
Maybe we make it between 10 to 15 minutes. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, and I'm really pleased to be here with you. And I've been impressed that what we have done during the last years in my university, thanks to European funded projects, could be interesting for someone working in Asia. And so I've been really grateful for this invitation. My point here is to stress the value of an Erasmus Plus funded project that was part of a longer journey that we started some years ago in my region, in Marche region. Now I work at the University of Pisa since September this year, but in the last 15 years I've been in Marche region, in Macerata, and as you can see here, Marche is on the Adriatic coast of Italy. And it is famous to be the most important region for industrial districts. So many small industrial districts. So many kind of products that represent the made in Italy, like shoes, textile, come from there. And there has been a first crisis in 2008 and 2009. And then there has been an earthquake in 2016 and 17, several waves of earthquake. And this completely changed the way that I was feeling my work, my job as a researcher, because I was working in the agribusiness sector as a researcher, working on consumer behavior, on food and wine marketing. But at a certain point, we discovered that our research was not useful for the territory because they had other needs, especially the need to become a network, the need to work closer. And so we realized that what in the Agenda 2030 and in the work of Mazzucato, she says about the importance to pursue sustainable development goals by working at local level with projects that can be also replicated in terms of methodology in other places. So we have to look at grand challenges by working on some mission projects where the university can be important. And this can be done by working on a network of universities all around the world, not only in Europe. For us, that was a sort of challenge that we try to address. These are all logos of projects, of European projects that we have been able to get by working on a strict collaboration between our university, the regional stakeholders, and international context where other universities and stakeholders could work together. This started in 2009, and then starting from these European projects, among them there is the Wine Lab, I'm going to talk about this, many different new startup companies were generated, and we are proud for this. And we have recently published this longitudinal case study in this journal, so on agriculture and food economics. So what is the starting point theoretically? That university business collaboration, at least in Europe, works if there is a collaboration between different people within institutions that can bring to trust. So university business collaboration work when collaborations work when there is a trust, mutual commitment, and shared goals. You can set up the most important collaboration, but if you have not the right people working together, this is very difficult at the end to let it work. So we have to deal with wicked problems in the territories, like especially rural areas, where you have different problems, you have wicked problems. So it's not the problem to find the solution. The challenge is to define the problem several times, because you have to work on different fields, on different problems related to different sectors. For instance, tourism and food, or food retailing and rural lifestyle. And so this requires also a multidisciplinary perspective to our work. And this is particularly important when we come to wine, because wine sector, well, you know Tuscany, for instance, for this kind of landscapes. But Tuscany is not only those kind of landscapes, it's also heroic viticulture, mountain viticulture. And of course, there is a different GDP and different regional development in this area, in Chianti, and in this area that is the upper Tuscany, close to Liguria. So we need to consider that this kind of viticulture is the one with the highest level of sustainability, because these farmers don't use so many chemical fertilizers or other technologies that can compromise the environment. And so we need to take care of them. So we decided to work together in this project by working with Greece, in Tuscany and Marche region in Italy, in Lower Austria, and in Hungary. And we put together all these regions, not to find the one-size-fits-all solution, because it doesn't exist in place-based policy, regional policies. We have tried to work together on the same methodology and to co-create a methodology through different methods. So building regional communities with multi-stakeholder engagement, helping students to have their mobility abroad, because when you see something in another context, maybe you can come back and be more open to find solutions, innovative solutions related to sustainability. We try to create these wine living labs through workshops, hackathons, seminars, transnational learning weeks. Well, of course, there was a pleasure behind that, because I mean, we have to deal with wine, and it was not so horrible working in the field. But it was interesting because the wine sector was not only to be considered by itself, but it was part of different other sectors that we need to take into account when we deal with regional development. And so we started this circular process under an action research perspective, a circular and multidisciplinary process by setting up these different tools, wine hubs, learning and training. And so we developed some Moocs and some didactic material online. We try to help students to find their placement, even abroad, and then the idea to work on wine living labs. Then, of course, this was done in an actual research approach by working on specific researches. So all the single researches were some bricks to build a bigger wall. And so we try to get information from all the stakeholders in a way that is different from the traditional way to make surveys. So I use traditionally stakeholders to get data for my research, but it's very difficult then to start a dialogue with them. Instead, in this case, we had the chance to give a sort of restitution, to give back to them, to the stakeholders, what we were doing. And this was part of an empowerment and an ownership of these projects with them. We realized that bureaucracy is a problem for small farmers. We realized that it is very difficult to access financial resources. And we realized that sometimes many different cultural assets are given for granted. So for instance, I live in Tuscany, I live in Marche, I know there is culture, but I don't know about the local culture, and I need to work with other people and other disciplines, even though I'm a farmer. And so networking at the end is a crucial point. So these are some numbers, some pictures of all the activities we have done, we have carried out. Specifically, I would like to stress 2 points. One is the importance of events like hackathons, and we organized this wine hackathon that was interesting because we put together some challenges from farmers, regional stakeholders, and students from all around Europe should address these challenges over 24 hours. And during this kind of activity, they had to use as a sort of competition. In this competition, a sub-competition, they had to use their social media. And so we realized that even a didactic activity linked with the research could become a promotional event for the territory because they had to use some hashtags on some social media. And this was another way to explore new methods, bridging together by collecting the research, didactic, and third mission of the university, by putting them all together. Then another experience was the international student competition on place branding and Mediterranean diet, because in Marche region, there was one of the sample of people studied by Ansel Keys, this doctor from the US who codified the Mediterranean diet. And this happened 50 years ago. But all the people who were part of this study, of this longitudinal study, they decided to promote their land starting from this cultural aspect. So if someone very important discovered the Mediterranean diet, is because we existed and we have been studied. And so let's try to put together students from all around the world in this context to have an intensive 1 week by using rigorously constructivist approaches, so problem-based learning, location-based learning. And at the end of the week, we can ask students to provide in public theaters, as you can see here in the center, their solutions, their local action plan for these rural areas, to work in a sustainable way, but to promote their land in a sustainable way. So this is important, and I'm going to finish my presentation, but I would like to stress the importance of all these projects, because this is on wine, but it's important to stress the relevance of different projects, especially in the context of the smart specialization strategy. That is this strategy to help bottom-up approaches, to help local communities to do their best. I think that regional universities can help this kind of process. And I think that policymakers can help at international level the creation of spaces of dialogue between different stakeholders. For me and for my colleagues in the different countries in Europe, the Wine Lab project has been important to start creating this kind of spaces of dialogue. You can download the comprehensive report on the Wine Lab on this website, thewinelab.eu, and this is my email address. I hope, Jenny, to have been clear.
Thank you so much for that. I love this concept of co-creation for sustainability. I think this is a wonderful concept that we can all learn from continuously, especially with the world that we are living in. And I also like very much, Professor Alessio, you mentioned about local culture, and you really like being responsive also to local culture. I wanted to ask you, about how you intertwined, these new learnings, the new science, for example, that you're doing, also with, the traditional knowledge that is there and the indigenous knowledge that is there. Was there an instance where you merged it together, and what was that experience?
Well, that's a great question, Jenny. I have to be honest, this kind of approach, constructivist approach, based on project-based learning, location-based, service-based, because if you have to address some challenges related to sustainability, of course, you need to think that your work with your students can become useful as a service you are giving to the territory. Honestly, it was in the cultural minds of people 150 years ago, because usually universities were very close to the territory, and professors, the experts of 150 years ago, used to go in the territory to work closely with farmers or with other consultants or with the mayors of local villages. So in my opinion, there has been something related to the Industrial Revolution that changed a lot also the role of universities. And now probably there is the chance to go back to the origin of a certain kind of relationship between professors and the territory. So it was a problem for me at the very beginning when I started to work there in Marche region, very rural region, because usually farmers said, okay, professor, you are telling us many things, but we feel yourself as part of an ivory tower. Instead, I was trying to do something that could be useful for them. So it's a cultural work we need to do also inside universities with our colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I seem to be having some problems with my internet. So if I freeze, I will bring Susan in. But thank you so much for that, Professor Alessio. This is the reality that we live in. Sometimes we can't predict the bandwidth that we get. But thank you so much. Please stay there. I will introduce now the next speaker. Actually, she's supposed to be also with another person, and I want to acknowledge also your colleague, and she is Professor Paula De Bernardi, but something came up and she cannot be with us, but of course we are very, very happy to welcome Simona Grande. So the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And yes, I would like to send my greetings from Professor Paula De Bernardi. She would really like to say hi to everyone, and she's very, very glad for the invitation.
Did we lose
and so am I.
Simona?
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Everything is here. Don't worry, Jenny.
Okay. Yes. So just sending my greetings from Professor Paola De Bernardi. She's very, very glad for this invitation, and so am I. So thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. And at the same time, I really loved the presentations of the two speakers before me. It's so interesting to see so many interconnections among our activities. So very, 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 very glad to be here. All right. So today I'm going to introduce our project, Circular Business Models for Sustainable Urban Food Systems. As we know, the way the food is currently produced and consumed is not efficient and is indeed detrimental for the health of humans and for the planet. Here we have some data about it and the fact that unfortunately only less than 2% of valuable nutrients are looped back in the cities, whereas the rest is still not used so efficiently. And despite a lot of best practices and great examples that we see around us, the world is now only 8.6% circular. And so, of course, there is a need to educate towards the circularity thinking and circular economy action, as of course, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, is reminding us in terms of wanting the next generations in the European Union to be leaders on circular economy. So for too long, of course, we have based our economy on predatory ideas, and there is a need to shift towards different models. And for that, of course, we need change, but we also need new mindsets and new ways of perhaps thinking and learning to do so. And on this note, we decided as University of Turin, particularly with the Department of Management and also other departments which collaborated with us to develop our Mooc, Circular Business Models for Sustainable Urban Food Systems, which was supported and developed thanks to EIT Food. So Circular Business Models for Sustainable Urban Food Systems is a Mooc that was launched in November 2020. And the aim of the Mooc is really to convey how circular business models can transform urban food systems to tackle grand challenges through innovative solutions. And it's really, really linked to what the previous speaker said. So about finding local solutions that are replicable and perhaps interesting for other contexts to be taken as inspiration. And so we developed this Mooc with the help, of course, also of another university, which is the University of Helsinki, and particularly also the Department of Management. So just taking a step back for our audience, very, very briefly, what is a Mooc? Mooc stands for Massive Open Online Course. So MOOCs started around 2012, and as we can see from this graph, really had an exponential growth in the past years. Of course, also during the pandemic, where they've been a great support for a lot of teachers and professors around the world and a lot of learners to still be able to consume content at their own pace and at home. So again, very briefly, what is different in a Mooc, perhaps in terms of content, is that the content is accessible 24/7. The media is generally open source. The students are encouraged to share and contribute materials. The modules are rather short compared to another online course, so 5 to 10 minutes. And the content is always edited. So a Mooc is always quite updated. And so the developers of a Mooc make sure all the time to update the content and make sure that it's always relevant. And in terms of delivery, the lectures are pre-recorded, the content is available from the start. There's a customized learning path for learners, and classmates tend to send feedback to each other. So there's this kind of peer-to-peer learning, and they can still access to the content with no specific due dates. So what will you find in our Mooc? So the Mooc has been designed as a progressive learning journey, which is developed across 4 weeks. We start with understanding what it means to think and act circular, particularly in the context of the SDGs. Why is it relevant and for whom? And what are the policies and ideas that support the circular economy thinking? In week 2, we introduce the importance of designing circular food systems. We have a look at some best practices from around the world of food policies that have circularity at the core, but also we discuss what are the challenges and opportunities. In week 3, we try to introduce this concept of circular business models and see best practices from entrepreneurs around the world that are trying to make their cities more circular. And then in week 4, we talk about the importance of engaging different types of stakeholders, the importance of co-creation and collaboration and educational and training activities, such as these ones that we are presenting here today. And so again, this has been a joint effort, of course, supported by EIT Food and developed by the University of Turin and the University of Helsinki, but also with the support of 2 additional partners from the startup world, which are Too Good To Go and Agriculus. So going a little bit deeper into what you can find in this Mooc, we talk about circular policies and the SDGs. So for instance, we analyze the Circular Economy Action Plan of the European Union and the context of the SDGs. We discuss about circular cities and regions, again, talking about some very interesting best practices, such as the donut from the city of Amsterdam, and also how regions and also countries are transitioning towards a circular economy, for instance, taking into inspiration from as an inspiration the OECD urban studies, and also what Finland is doing to create a circular Finland. And then as introduced, we talk about circular business models, and we try to discuss with the learners what it means to transition from a business model to a sustainable business model, and what it means to design a circular one, and what are the characteristics that a circular business model can have, but at the same time, what are the challenges, what are the threats and important aspects to be taken into consideration when designing a circular business model that, of course, has to be embedded in a larger circular ecosystem. And then we talk about what are the existing measurement tools for circularity. For instance, how to measure the circularity of cities. We have the Circular City Scan tool, how to perhaps track and map waste through, for instance, geofluxus, and how businesses are already trying to assess their circularity through tools like Circulytics developed by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And then we also discuss about what will be the future of jobs and the future of skills in a circular economy context. So what it will mean, for instance, to be an architect in a circular economy world, and what are the type of skills that will be needed for this transition, such as complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, and flexibility. And then we also try to analyze circular best practices and different frameworks that are really helping us to understand the circular economy better and make sure that circular economy solutions and ideas are developed in a way that takes into consideration all the important aspects. And here, for example, we have the Resolve framework developed by McKinsey that has different aspects that businesses can take into consideration when designing their own circular idea. So the concepts of regenerate, share, optimize, loop, virtualize, and exchange. And for each of them, we try to give concrete examples related to the agri-food space for the learners to really understand how to apply these concepts in practice. So some numbers about our Mooc. So far, our Mooc reached learners in 120 plus countries. You can see also there's a lot of Asian countries as well. And recently we launched the Mooc also in the Spanish language. So we're very happy about this. So we could reach a larger and larger audience. Here you have a little bit of reviews from our learners. So generally, they really liked the course, and they revealed that they gained new knowledge and new skills by taking the course. This is taken from the end of the course survey. And here we have more reviews from them. So in general, we really appreciated the fact that the students liked this interactive approach that we've followed for the course. So really having different types of material for them. So from podcasts to infographics to videos, and a lot of different types of easy to consume content for them to remember and perhaps share with their peers. So it was really, really great to hear from them and to learn more about what they liked about our course. And I have a short video as well, because I would really like you to know more about our course. So let me just stop this one and open the video. Here we are.
It's estimated that by 2050, there will be approximately 9 billion people living on Earth, with almost 70% of them projected to live in urban areas. As this population increases, we will need 3 times more resources to feed them. And this is a problem, because a third of food produced globally for human consumption is lost or wasted along the value chain. All of this highlights the need for a circular alternative to the linear take, make, and dispose model of production. However, only 8.6% of the world can currently be defined as circular. This online course investigates how we can design and build circular food systems that foster the transition towards sustainable cities. We will explore novel circular business models and new tools to foster circularity of food in cities. We will investigate the catalytic role of cities and communities and how they can seize new opportunities to drive the sustainability of urban food systems. Join us on Circular Business Models for Sustainable Urban Food Systems.
All right, I'm done with my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention. I will post the link of our Mooc in the chat. And as well, for more information on the Mooc, you can contact myself and Professor Paola De Bernardi. Thank you very, very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. I'm bringing quickly, we are running out of time, but I just want to bring quickly again all of our speakers back in. And I just wanted to ask you all one question, and we can start with you, Simona. All these wonderful science, it's really, you talk about the circular economy, we talk about sustainability, for these, we have young researchers in the room and those who want to get into the science, most especially multidisciplinary science. So what is your advice to them, and how can they get involved? What would be the first steps? Simona, I'll start with you as the PhD researcher.
Sure, definitely. I think my video is for some reason stopped. So if you would like, I can open it again for the audience. Yeah. All right. Here I am. So definitely my recommendation and suggestion would be very much aligned with generally the principles of this Mooc and also the 2 projects that were presented before. So the importance of always being very much connected with the real world and what is happening, and being involved in these very important opportunities of co-creation and listening to, for instance, if you're studying food or investigating about food, talking with the farmers and being involved in their daily life and really empathizing with them and understanding what are the real struggles and what it means for them to perhaps apply some of the innovations. And in general, thankfully, there are a lot of opportunities also online now of exchanging knowledge with so many people from around the world. And sometimes what we think is an innovation somewhere might be very interesting somewhere else, and might be something that is already applied in other ways, and we can always learn from each other. So really, these exchange opportunities are so important.
Very good advice. Professor Alessio, please.
Well, I would like to share, I guess in the chat it can work. I would like to share a link because we had an experience funded by the European Commission about these by another Mooc. It is a sort of competitor of the one that Simona just presented. But I think it was interesting because in the program of Erasmus Plus virtual exchange, there has been the chance for several students all around the world to take part to these learning opportunities by, on one side, studying existing Moocs on the main 4 platforms that are edX, Coursera, Future Learn, and iVersity. These are 4 very important platforms. And once you study these Moocs, then you have the chance to take part to very interesting sessions with other people from different continents, with different countries. So I think this can be it can be really helpful because you have on one side, and this is the link to the, I'm putting here the link to the Erasmus Plus virtual exchange. This is a real chance to exploit the work done by different researchers in different disciplines all around the world, and to put everything as a service for contextual learning and for cross-cultural learning. Because of course, if I deal with food waste, food recovery, the problem is that one, but we have different cultural approaches in Asia or in Europe or in South and North Europe. So I think it's important to have this kind of platforms where Moocs can be exploited to learn from each other.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for these resources. These would be very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Professor Alessio. And of course, Professor Jorg.
Well, thanks a lot for all the presentations. Has been also for me very interesting. And I hope really inspiring for all our listeners that are really many. And well, let's say, maybe again, to say I'm coming from one of the creative disciplines, and we are normally not really in the research business, because, well, maybe different reasons, we have to communicate better, we have to make our methods more clear, and we are also hoping, in more openness from the more established disciplines, like economics, biology, agronomy, and let's say our aim should be to make clear that the creative disciplines can really bring a contribution to develop innovation in this field. And let's say if there are today some people from Asia that come from the creative disciplines, really to take the chance. And I think that European Commission, especially with the Creative Europe program, is really going ahead into positioning us as creative disciplines, and maybe to make another link this would be to the new European Bauhaus, no? That is an important initiative by Ursula von der Leyen and the Commission that aims not to bring together the creatives and the technologists and scientists in new way towards the Green Deal. And I think there are happening a lot of interesting things that maybe to have a look at this, no? Also for all who are listening.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Jorg, Schroeder, of course, Professor Alessio, Kaviki, and Simona Grande. Thank you so much. We had like an excellent discussion, and I wish I could extend it a little bit more, but there is a session coming after us, and this is the Meet My Lab. So to take it home, I'll give it to my colleague, Dr. Susan Ransovasi. Susan.
Yes, thank you so much. It was extremely interesting listening to all of you. And for me, particularly interesting looking at the chat. And because we see there's so many of you that want to reach out to potential collaborators, we have in the meantime created a LinkedIn group specifically for you where you can post your offers and your requests for research collaborations. We've shared this in the chat link already. So this is a platform for you where you can reach out to others and find collaborators to work with you on your project. We will again share this link in the follow-up in the next few days. So don't worry if you haven't had time to take note. We will be in touch with the presentations, with the recording, and with the access to the LinkedIn group. And for me as well, thank you so much to the presenters. Back to you, Jenny.
So that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us again. This is your Access ASEAN. See you in the next session. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.